Welcome to the channel. So we've got a reaction video. This is going to be the 10 most scenic drives in the US. Now, this is their list. If you have something different, let me know in the comment section. But let's jump into this. Let's have a look what they've got for us.
Howdy, it's Kyle talking about the 10 most scenic drives in the US. I've been fortunate enough to drive around the country many times and I've seen some really beautiful drives. In this video, I want to talk about the 10 that I believe are the most beautiful in my opinion. This is not going to be a countdown, just an overview of the drives, although I will save my personal favorite one for the very end. And all of the footage and images you're going to see are taken from the side of the road or very nearby. You won't have to stop and get out of the car, hike for a couple of miles to get to some of these spots, or drive down some weird funky dirt road to get to them. And also, I have not been to either Alaska or Hawaii, and although I'm sure there are some very beautiful drives in those states, I won't be including them because I haven't actually done them. So let's take a look at the 10 most beautiful drives and the continue.
So obviously, as he's saying there, you're pointing out that this is his list. This is what he's done personally. As I said, if you have something different, let me know down in the comment section.
Contiguous US.
Okay.
I want to start by talking about the Oregon coast. The whole coast is very
Go Ducks!
Very nice, but I wanted to focus on the parts between Lincoln City and Brookings. This follows US Highway 101, and for most of the stretch, you're right along the coast.
Now, I love scenery myself. All kinds of scenery, doesn't matter. The earth is beautiful. We don't get to see a lot of it. I love looking at it, and that looks amazing. I grew up by the water in Harvey Bay, about 4 hours north from where I am. On the coast. So I love the ocean.
There are a few spots where you go a little bit inland, but one thing that is really great about Oregon is that all of the beaches are public. There's public access all along the way, and there's no big development going up and
wow, look at that golden color. Oh, and the trees right there, man. Reminds me of the Great Ocean Road down in Melbourne. Just outside of Melbourne, down in Victoria. Wonderful area too.
Down the coast. Wow. There are no big cities. In fact, the biggest towns are under 10,000 people. There is a part where you go inland a little bit around Coos Bay, which is the big city in the area with about 15,000 people. But all of the coastal towns have less than 10,000. Effectively, the entire Oregon coast is one big state park, and there are all kinds of spots where you can stop and get out to the beach. It's just really nice to see one long stretch of coastline in the US that isn't completely developed with giant hotels and big cities. Next, I want to talk
that was wonderful. That was wonderful looking
about the drive in and around Theodore Roosevelt National Park in western North Dakota. If you didn't know beforehand and you had to guess what state this was based on this footage, you might need about 40 guesses or so to get North Dakota. This is one of my favorite national
Good thing I'm a professional geoguesser. Yikes.
Parks in the country, and it's a great spot to get away from crowds. And you'll see a lot of wildlife here, a ton of bison, a lot of wild...
Look at that white one. Holy moly.
Horses, big prairie dog towns, and just the general scenery of the North Dakota Badlands is beautiful. There are two different units to the national park, the North and South unit. Hardly anybody goes to the South unit, and even fewer go to the North unit. You can drive around each of the two units, and US Highway 85 connects them both. If you're driving through the North unit outside of the time between Memorial Day and Labor Day, there's a very good chance you won't see anybody else in the park except for maybe a park ranger. There's really nowhere else in the US that has this type of scenery, and yes, it's in North Dakota. The next drive I want to talk about is in their neighbor to the south, South Dakota. When most people think of scenic beauty in South Dakota, they're going to think about Mount Rushmore and the Black Hills first, and that's both very nice. But what I wanted to talk about here is the drive between the town of Custer and Badlands National Park. Just east of the town of Custer, you get to Custer State Park. And this has got some nice scenery, but the best part about this drive is you're basically guaranteed to see a whole bunch of bison. They'll just be there chilling, roaming the streets, wishing people weren't there to bother them. But going a little bit farther east, you get to Badlands National Park, and this is where the scenery gets really gorgeous. The last time I was at this park, it was really cold, a bit too cold to be going hiking, but the drive is really nice going through the park, so you can see some really nice scenery and not even get out of your car. Heading way southeast is the drive across the Florida Keys.
We're right down the bottom.
I'm talking specifically here, US Highway 1 between Keys.
I've seen this bridge before. That's crazy, isn't it? Over the water like that? Look at the color of that water.
Key
Wow.
Largo and Key West. The whole drive between the two is almost like being on one big bridge. You go through all kinds of small islands, the Keys,
Holy.
and the whole time you're just seeing this beautiful turquoise water. There are several spots where you can stop and get out of your car along the way, and I remember I stopped at one and got out of the car and saw a couple
Is that iguana? I've got lizards that big almost in my back garden all the time.
of iguanas running
Not
around.
iguanas, but
I could see this
that
road being
big.
kind of a pain in the butt and high traffic on busy holiday weekends, but it's all worth it when you get to the end at the Conch Republic. In my opinion,
What the hell is the Conch Republic? Is that a place or is that just what they call it? Now, asking for a friend, can you stop along that road and do a bit of fishing? That's what I'm asking. Since that's out in the middle of the water. Dang.
the most beautiful
Okay.
stretch of drive along an interstate is Interstate 70 in the central part of Colorado.
Colorado.
Between the towns of
Oh my
Eagle and
God.
Idaho Springs is the highest elevation of anywhere on a U.S. interstate. The highest point is Loveland Pass at just under 12,000 feet. To go over the pass, the interstate itself goes through a tunnel, but you can take a side exit and go on US Highway 6 to go over the actual pass.
Oh my God. Look at the scenery.
And with you being
Jeez.
at almost 12,000 feet for a good chunk of the year, there's going to be a lot of snow on the mountains. So if you want to experience high altitude and thin air but not go on some crazy hike or on some weird back roads, you can do it on I-70 in central
Wow.
Colorado. Next up, arguably the most famous drive in the US, the Blue Ridge
Oh,
Parkway. This goes
okay.
through a large part of the southern Appalachians in North Carolina and Virginia, and my favorite part of the drive is the stretch between Asheville and Boone. You go right near Mount Mitchell, which is the highest peak in the eastern US, and this is a very
Okay.
nice drive no
Oh,
matter what time of the year you
look at the colors. Man, I'm in Queensland. We don't get color changes in our trees. They're green the whole year. Either that or they're dead. We only have two colors. But look at the colors, the red and the orange and the yellow. Good God. Man, that's that looks amazing.
do this. The
Amazing.
most popular time is going to be the fall, especially October during the peak fall foliage season.
Oh
But
my
that's also
God.
when it's the busiest. So you can go in the spring or summer and it's still very nice, very green. And even during the
Mhm.
winter with no leaves on the trees and a light dusting of snow, it is still very pretty. Next up is arguably the most famous drive in the western US, and that's the Big Sur coastline in California.
Okay.
You've probably seen footage and images of this drive many times, and a lot of folks that are not familiar with California think this is much farther north in the state than it is. This is California Highway 1 between the towns of Carmel and San Simeon, which is where Hearst Castle is. And for most of this drive, you're along a big high cliff. There's all kinds of pull-offs. You can look over at some big drop-offs down to the ocean. And there's some
Wow.
serious wilderness between the coast and the valley on the other side of the mountains. And every few years, one of those bridges gets washed out and the road has to be closed.
Oh
And the
my
handful of
God.
people that live back there are
What
basically
the?
cut off from society until the road gets repaired. So this is a drive where you'll definitely want to pull over at some of the turnouts to get your photos and some nice views as opposed to oohing and awing while you're driving. Next, I want to mention the north shore of the Upper Peninsula of Michigan along Lake Superior. Specifically, I'm talking about the stretch between the towns of Marquette and Grand Marais.
Oh
You're
my.
hugging the lake shore for a big chunk of this drive. You can see Grand Island out in the lake as you go around it, and it goes right to Pictured Rock National Lakeshore, which is a really nice spot. You can't see the beautiful cliffs of Pictured Rock from the road, but you are not that far from it. But even if you don't go off the main road into the National Lakeshore, just staying on the road is a really nice drive. You'll
Wait, is that the lake? Oh my God. They say it's as big as the ocean, but dang.
go around
Okay.
some nice sand dunes and you'll end up in the really cute town of Grand Marais. Most of the UP of Michigan is very beautiful, very wooded, but especially this spot along
It looks like the top of GTA 5. But that looks wonderful. Look at the lookout. My
the
God.
north shore of the Upper Peninsula is where you have some of the most beautiful views. Next up is a nice drive around some mountain lakes in western Maine.
Oh
I'm
wow.
talking
Okay.
primarily about the areas around Rangeley Lake, Mount Blue State Park, and the Sandy River Valley. Part of this area is called the Carabasset Valley. I'm not sure if that's how it's pronounced, but just some nice wilderness mountain lakes.
Hmm.
Rangeley, or maybe it's Rangeley, I know is a very popular spot for people from Maine to go to in the summer. Popular spot for people to have cabins. But even if you're just doing the loop drive
God, look at the sun and everything coming through that. Look at the wow. That is pretty. That is very pretty.
in the
Dang.
area, you'll get some really fantastic scenery. And I'm pretty sure there are some characters from Stephen King novels buried out there. And in general, western slash northwestern Maine is where you're going to find some of the deepest wilderness in the eastern U.S.
Look at the
And
color.
now for what I think is the most beautiful drive in the U.S. It's the drive in southern Utah going through the national parks
Okay.
Zion, Bryce Canyon, and Capitol Reef. This is classic
Oh yeah.
canyon country and a big part of the Grand Circle road trip tour that a lot of people do. The whole Grand Circle includes the 5 national parks of Utah as well as the Grand Canyon
Wow.
and other parts of northern Arizona, but
I think I've seen that bit in another video that we've done. The color is amazing.
I do
Look
think
at it.
this particular stretch is the most beautiful. Driving through Bryce Canyon National Park requires going down a spur road into the
Oh,
park, but it's definitely worth it. And there's another spot called the Hogback, which is just this crazy ridge. It's a narrow road with a big steep drop off on both sides. I've driven over that part
wow.
many times, and when I've been with other people, they always get kind of freaked out. Probably isn't the best time to have a tire blowout. You'll also go through Grand Staircase, Escalante National Monument, and a bunch of state parks as well. And the road goes right through Capitol Reef National Park, which is where you'll see
Whoa, what's that mountain in the right-hand side in the distance? Looks like tableland or something. I don't know what that is. Wow.
some of the most colorful
Wow.
sandstone in the US. This drive is much longer than the other ones I talked about in the video, but it is definitely worth checking out the entire route. Although I do highly recommend stopping at least a few times along the way and probably want to make this a multi-day drive. So that's my overview of the 10 most scenic drives in
Wow.
the US. This is a huge country, it's a beautiful country, and the best way to see it is from the road. I made sure to include different drives from various parts of the country so that way everybody is fairly close to at least one of these. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up to let me know you approve, and subscribe to this channel if you're interested in learning more about geography. I'm talking about cross-country road tripping like this, talking about cities and states, ranking them in all kinds of different categories, and I'm a bit of a nerd, so everything comes from a little more nerdy type perspective. But yeah, thanks for watching. Geography King, signing out.
We're all nerds at something. I've really enjoyed that. That was a very enjoyable video. He did a great job. As you said, that's his list. That's where he went. That's personal travel for him. So, but some of those places look amazing. Amazing. Along that coastline, Oregon coast looks fantastic. Those cliffs. And up in Utah as well, and Colorado. I love scenery. Any scenery. As I said, you know, the planet that we live on is so beautiful. Some of us don't get to see all of that. And some, you know, sometimes it's in your backyard as well. You know, you get caught up with life and everything else. You don't get out and you see this wonderful landscape that's right there. I'm the same as well. I live in Queensland. We have the oldest rainforest here in the world. Never seen it. Never seen it. So I guess that's a reminder, you know, sometimes it's good to kind of make that time, get out and see that world that we live in, because it looks like that and it's absolutely amazing. So they were fantastic. As I said before, if you've got a particular road trip that you enjoy, let me know down in the comment section, guys. Thank you very much for joining me today. Make sure you stay safe, and I will definitely see you in the next reaction video. Oh, you're still here? You want more content? Why don't you check out my Patreon down here? You'll get plenty more content and some exclusive videos over there too. If not, why not check out this one over here?